Good morning, you guys. We're so glad you're here. Go ahead and stand with us. We're going to get started with some worship this morning, and Gary is going to kick us off. So you guys just feel free to sing along with us as you catch on to the songs. We're just going to take some time to celebrate being together and celebrate the God that loves us so much and is here with us today.
My God, my King, with a thankful heart I bring my offering and my sacrifices, not what you can give, but what I alone can give to you. A grateful heart I give, a thankful prayer I pray, a wild dance I dance before you, a loud song I sing, a huge bell I ring, a life of praise I live before you. Many men will pour their gold, serve a thing that shines. Many men will read your words, they will never change their minds. I will not forget you, you are my God, my King. With a thankful heart I bring my offering and my sacrifices, not what you can give, but what I alone can give to you. A grateful heart I give, a thankful prayer I pray, a wild dance I dance before you, a loud song I sing, a huge bell I ring, a life of praise I live before you.
Scripture says we can praise him with our hands and with our feet, with clapping and dancing. So will you guys just kind of clap along with us here? Give us a little 1, 2. Nice. Feel free to move your feet around as we sing this next part together. Let's lift up our voices with all of creation and worship him.
I will not forget you. 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 Yeah, yeah. my offering, and my sacrifice is not what you can give, but what I alone can give to you.
God, we're so grateful for who you are. Full of love, endless compassion, justice, merciful towards the poor, close to the brokenhearted. God, you celebrate with us when we celebrate, and you mourn with us when we mourn. You are near. And God, we look to you in both the good and the bad. Whatever place we stand this morning, we know that you are there and that you won't leave. God, we bless you for the way that you stick with us. Blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering, though there's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name in the land that is plentiful, where your streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. Sing every blessing, and every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. And when the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering, though there's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name when the sun shines down. Blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. Oh, every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. And when the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Ooh, you give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Sing that with us. You give and take away. You give and take away. my heart will choose to say, Jesus, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. We love you. We'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you. We can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. Yes, God. We sing this today from a place of honesty, not from a place of striving, God, where we pretend to be somewhere that we're not, but from an honest heart that sees the reality of the world around us and still finds hope in a God who is love and who is light. We need you, Jesus. Would you fill up our hearts and fill up this room, God, with the love that is Jesus. When you walk into the room, everything changes, and darkness starts to tremble at the light that you bring. And when you walk into the room, every heart starts burning, and nothing matters more than just to sit here at your feet and worship you. We worship you. Sing, we love you. We love you. And we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you. We can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. Jesus. When you walk into the room, sickness starts to vanish. Every hopeless situation ceases to exist. And when you walk into the room, the dead begin to rise, 'cause there is resurrection life in all you do. We love you. We'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you. We can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. 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 Sing, come and consume. Come and consume, God. Oh, we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours. We want you. We want you. Come and consume, God. hearts are yours, we want you. We want you. Oh, God. Come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours, we want you. Oh, we want you. One more time. Come and consume, God, all we are. We give you permission. Our hearts are yours, we want you. Oh, yeah, we want you. Yeah. We love you. We'll never stop. We can't live without you. Jesus, we love you. We can't get enough. All this is for you, Jesus. Jesus. So blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. No other name but Jesus.
Yeah, Father, this morning I just acknowledge my complete and utter dependence on you. You are the very breath that I breathe.
No sweeter name than Jesus.
You are what sustains me. You are what moves me forward. There isn't a place that I can go that you are not already present. Even when in my unbelief and doubt and secret shames, you are still working and moving in my life. So I just stand and I acknowledge you this morning. I just say, yes, Father, you are worthy. Yeah. Help us to live out our dependence on you. Yeah. Help us to lean in. Yeah, to walk in your presence and your spirit. Be with us this morning, Jesus. In your name I pray, amen. Amen. You guys can be seated this morning. Good morning, New Hope Lucas. How are you all this morning? Great. My name is Juanita, and I just want to say welcome. We are so glad that you're here with us this morning. It's funny to look out and see like people in the corners. Hey there. Hi, guys. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. If this is your first Sunday with us, I hope you received a handout this morning. There's a little tear-off for you to fill out. If you didn't get one, the ushers are going to come forward. They have those for you and some pencils if you need it. If it's your first-time visitor, we'd love for you to fill out the bottom part of that for us with just your name and information and drop it in the offering at the end. We just want to reach out and connect with you and just share a little bit of our story and hear from you and hear your story. So yeah, we'd love for you to do that. The only announcement I have this morning is a fabulous one. Our friend, Joe Brock, right there, Joe wave, she is hosting a women's brunch this Saturday, the 15th, starting at 9:30. It's a potluck. It's a casual event just for us to connect as women and be together. Yeah, I'm sorry, John, you can't come. We're going to have all the wonderful breakfast, and you can't have any. So sorry. So if you are a woman and you would love to join us, we would love to have you. It's just a way for us to connect relationally. We're big on community here, and we want you to be a part of that with us. There's these little cards on the back table back there with her address and contact info. If you'd like more information or you're planning to be there, please grab one of those so you can get there, okay? Why don't we stand and greet one another and make sure everyone feels welcome this morning?
You guys are really, really good at greeting one another. Good job. Well, oh, by the way, if you haven't done so already, if you could silence your cell phones, that would be fantastic. Brett and Maggie and their family are off on a family vacation. So that's where they are today, getting some lovely rest and outdoor time with one another. So we miss them, but because they're gone, we get an extra special guest here today. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce Susan Washington to you. Susan is actually one of the very first stories that I heard when Gary and I moved here from California and started going to New Hope. And I was blown away by her story. She has lived probably 5 lifetimes in one lifetime, and I was just so impacted by how vulnerable she was, what she's gone through, what her family's gone through, and she keeps showing up. She is just the story of perseverance and hope in the midst of tragedy. And so I hope her story impacts you like it did me. And additionally, she's going to share just a snippet of what she's been through, and you'll probably want to know more after. And if you do, she brought some of her books with her. She wrote a book about her story and her life, and it's fantastic. I bought it. I loved reading it. I'll probably read it again after hearing you today. But those are available on the back table right before you exit the gym. If you're interested, make sure to pick up one of those on the way out. They're $20?
Yes.
$20. So
And we
anyways.
take cards.
Oh, yeah. They have a little swiper thing if you have a credit card you'd like to use for that. So let me pray for you, Susan.
Okay.
All right. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for Susan. God, I'm so thankful for her heart that is surrendered to you, that surrenders to you again and again and again through the storms and tragedies of life. And God, I thank you for the hope, the redeeming qualities that show through her. God, how you're always redeeming and bringing good from the most terrible of circumstances. And I thank you that Susan is so willing to vulnerably share that, and not for her own gain, but God, to bring you glory. So I pray that we would be open to God, what you have for each one of us through her story. And I just thank you for her life and for how you've made her, God, and that she's willing to share. I just pray for your Spirit to fill her, and that your words would be her words. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Would you guys join me in welcoming Susan?
Yeah. I'm going to pull this back out of that. Hi. Just thank you so much. Can y'all hear me good? Okay. As she said, my name's Susan DeFace Washington, and I'm just going to share my story today. It's a story of hope. It's a story of tragedy. It's a story of choices and consequences, both good and bad. But most of all, it's a story of what God can do with a broken life once surrendered to Him. I was just a typical girl born into a typical middle-class family, living what everyone thought was a typical life. Well, it turns out everyone was wrong. My family endured heartbreaking tragedies and crippling addictions that almost destroyed us. I alone survived. My story will take you from the July 4th weekend of 1971 through today. And what had happened, I was just a typical girl. We were a middle-class family. I grew up in East Dallas. I was the youngest of 3 children. And what happened on that 4th of July weekend is my brother, who was 18 at the time, committed suicide. And we were down at our lake house at Cedar Creek. And after David died, my sister was already in college at that time. She was going to SMU, and my family just changed. My parents never recovered from that. We shut the doors to my brother's room, and we never spoke about him again. We pretended he didn't exist. It became an unspoken rule in my home to mention his name. Well, life went on for a while, and I don't really have many memories, but when I got to junior high, I noticed things were changing. I couldn't depend on my mother anymore. Normally when I started, she would pick me up from school, but there would be days she didn't show up. And I would call the house, and no one would answer, and when I'd finally find a ride home, she'd be asleep, and she'd be really hard to wake up. And I wasn't sure what was going on, but this fear began to grow within me, because all I knew is my mother was sleeping more and more, and my father was staying gone longer and longer. He would just come home later and later. But at school, no one knew this. I was a good student. I went to school with a smile on my face. I was very personable. I was elected cheerleader. So school was a place that I felt good about myself. And that kind of was my refuge. When I got to high school, at this point, I knew my mother was an alcoholic. And to this day, she's still the most severe alcoholic I've ever been around. To give you an idea, it had become my normal. When I would get home from school, I would find her passed out. And it had become my normal. I would go find her and make sure she was alive. And then I would go about my business. By this point, my sister was married and living in Amarillo, and my father had moved to our lake house because he opened a business down there. So it was just me and mother. And but this one day I came home from school, and I opened the door, and she was passed out in the entry, and perfume bottles were everywhere. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, but when I bent down to make sure she was alive, I could smell that she had drank that perfume because she had run out of vodka. One time she drank all the rubbing alcohol in the house, all the mouthwash, NyQuil, whatever she could find. And when she completely ran out of everything, she would start going through DTs, and she would start hallucinating. And I would have to gather her and get her in my car and drive her to the hospital, because I learned at a very young age that it was dangerous to detox from alcohol without medical attention. And so that was my home life. Then the cycle would begin again. She would detox, come home, and it would begin again. But again, no one at school knew this. I was a good student. I wasn't a behavior problem. I was elected head cheerleader my senior year. So again, school was my refuge. It was a place I felt good about myself. When I graduated from high school, I graduated with honors, and I was really proud of that. I went to Skyline. I don't know if any of you know that, but it was a big high school. I had over 1,000 in my graduating class. And so the graduation ceremony was really long. And when we were done, me and my friends were walking through the crowds of people, and they were slowly meeting up with their families. And I remember all of a sudden I was alone. And I remember walking through that crowd just hoping someone had come, and no one had come. And I was really heartbroken by that. And I was really angry too. And I went to some parties, and the next night I got home, and my mother staggered into my room, and she could barely stand. And I said, "Get that out of my room. I just wish you were dead. I hate you." And I slammed the door, and I went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I found her body. And I was overcome with guilt and shame. It was Memorial Day 1979, and she was 49 years old. And I had this voice telling me, I didn't know the Lord. I didn't grow up going to church. But I had this voice that I know now was not the Lord saying, "Don't tell anyone you said that. They're going to think you killed her. This is your fault." And so I carried that. I carried that secret for a very long time. After the funeral, my dad went back to his lake house, and my sister went back to Amarillo. And I was alone in this house where my brother shot himself in one room, and my mother drank herself to death in another. And it was just the darkest time. You know, I know there's a God because he had to be with me, because I don't know how I survived that. I would have this recurring nightmare every night of my mother and brother in clown makeup chasing me, accusing me of being a killer. And I would just wake up alone, and I felt so terribly alone. But it wasn't long after that I went to live with my sister. And this was a good time. Me and Kathy weren't real close because she was 10 years older than me. And my sister grew up in a different home than I did. But when I went to live with Kathy, like they sat down and ate dinner, I had never done that. You know, I don't recall growing up sitting down at a table. I ate by myself. And so it was just a time that I felt loved. I finally felt loved. My sister loved me unconditionally. And although I never shared with her anything I said to my mother because I was scared she would reject me, things got better. And I went to college up there. I went to West Texas State University, and I became a teacher. During college, I met my husband, and we got married. And I'll let you know, like during high school and college, I didn't do drugs. I was against drugs. I did drink because, and in my head, like, someone with a drinking problem drank perfume. So I kind of set that bar really high on what I could drink. And so I probably drank a lot too much. But after college, I experimented with drugs. And I started doing some speed, and I liked that. But then we started having our family. And I have 3 children, Haley, who's 28, Alexis is 25, and Sammy's 24. And we started having our family. And although I was basically functioning, things were okay. In 1996, I moved back to the Dallas area, and I got a job as a special education coordinator for a small district outside of Commerce. And I was really proud of that job, and things were going well. But in 1998, my sister, who was my rock and my anchor, was diagnosed with cancer. And it wasn't long after that we knew it was terminal. And I had never dealt with anything. I had never dealt with the abandonment issues, the abuse, the neglect, my brother's death, my mother's death, and I just didn't have anywhere to stuff anything. And when I would think of my sister being gone forever, my heart I felt a physical pain. And I just had to make it go away. And I started doing drugs, and I started doing methamphetamine, and it took over my life fast. What's ironic about my story is my mother died at the age of 49 on Memorial Day 1979, and my sister died at the age of 49 on Memorial Day 1999. And I just spiraled into a drug addiction. I was asked to leave the district where I'd been hired. I got a job in Garland, but that last year I was using every day. And on April 19th, 2001, my husband was using too. We were both. I learned my husband was arrested at our home and that they were looking for me. I also learned at this point that CPS had gone and taken my children from school. And I didn't know what to do. I drove around. I have no cousins. I've never grown up with, my only living relative was my father, and I was scared to tell him. So for days, I just drove around. I just kept calling in sick to work. You can call a substitute line now when you're a teacher, so it's a lot easier than talking to a real person. But it's a lot easier to miss work. So I kept doing that. But by about the 4th day, I couldn't talk to my kids. I couldn't talk to my husband. I was in this motel room off of 635. And after I was like, I'm going to run out of money. I don't know what to do. And I was so ashamed of what I had become and of people finding out. I just thought my only way out was to end my life. And in that moment of that despair, that's the most hopeless I've ever felt in my life. In that moment, I had this prompting to call the benefits office of Garland ISD. And, I don't know how to, because I didn't have a cell phone. I had to probably look up the number. I didn't know anyone there, but I made this call, and God placed an angel on the other end. And, when I said hi, she answered, I said, hi. I go, I'm in a lot of trouble. And I go, I don't know what to do. And I think she could hear my desperation because she began to cry too. And she told me, she goes, you're not a bad person. You just need some help. And she spoke to me with love and kindness that day. And she just changed everything just by speaking to me with those words of love. She changed a potentially tragic situation, and she gave me a plan. And so I left, and I went to this hospital, and I checked myself in, and things got better. I've looked for that lady, and I can't find her, and no one knows who she is. Her name was Mary, and I have a friend who worked for Garland ISD all her life. She goes, Susan, I don't know who you're talking about. And so I don't know if she was an angel, and I'll meet her in heaven, I'm sure. But so things got better. I was sent to a rehab. And rehab was good. My in-laws took my children, so they were with family, and I went to a rehab, and rehab was good. I kind of worked on some of the things, but I still didn't know the Lord. And when I got out of rehab, I went to live with my dad. And this was just not a good situation because he was an alcoholic too. I just didn't recognize it because he wasn't like my mother. And he would get really drunk, and he would have these huge, like Dickie-sized glasses of vodka, and he would just pour it in my face. throw it in my face and just tell me he wished I would have died instead of my sister, and that I was the biggest disappointment and embarrassment to him. And I would just sit there drenched in vodka, hating myself because I agreed with him. I also learned at this time that I couldn't teach anymore, that I had lost my teaching certificate. And I don't know what I thought. I really thought I'd just get out of rehab and teach again, but I learned that, like, most districts don't want felons teaching their kids. And so I just, that hopelessness set in again. Not to the point of wanting to die, but just that I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had a lot of pride too, because I was like, I'm not doing that. I have a college degree. So pride mixed with hopelessness and shame never worked good. And so I relapsed. And within a month, I got a new drug charge that revoked my probation, and I was sent to prison. I was sent to prison for 2 years, and prison was hard. I had to go through this diagnostic unit where they tested me, and I tested well. But then I had to come to this other unit. You ride a bus, you're chained and shackled together. I went back, and I finally got to the unit I was going to do my time on. And it was in Gatesville. It was this old, it was an old boys' reformatory that was built in the 1800s. It had the huge gas lines on the outside, and I would just be like, I hope this doesn't blow up. But it was so hard. And when I got to my first dorm, I was lucky because I got to work in the library because I had scored really well on that testing. The lieutenant said, can you alphabetize? And I was like, yes, I can alphabetize really good. And she goes, you can work at the library. But everyone else had to work on the hoe squad. They had to hoe the ground and be chained and shackled together. So it was tough. And when I got to my first dorm, it was called the Big Timer Dorm. And I really didn't know what that meant, but I went and unpacked my stuff, and I thought, I'm going to find someone. And I'm a friendly, outgoing person by nature. So I unpacked, and I looked around. Some people looked really scary, so I didn't want to go talk to them. But I found this one girl, and I went up to her, and I said, hi, my name's Susan. I'm a drug offender. I have a 2-year sentence. What did you do to get here? And she was like, I killed my kids. And I was just shocked. And I started walking back to my bunk, and this girl that I intentionally did not go talk to because she was so scary told me to come over. And I went because I was scared not to. And she was like, you need to quit. Run around this dorm like it's summer camp. This is a big-timer dorm because most of these women are in here doing life without parole. Most of them are murderers. And she started pointing around what people had done. I was with someone who had decapitated their parents. I was with another lady who had microwaved her baby. I was with a teacher from Richardson that killed her kids. And I was just shocked that that's who I lived with. But that's where I had to be. So I did my time. I do have one funny prison story that one day, I loved working in the library because it was air conditioned and the rest of prison wasn't. But I was leaving the library going to the chow hall, and you have to walk on these lines. And in prison, you're referred to as a number. I was offender 1130254. I wasn't Susan. I wasn't, that's what I went by. Anytime I went through a gate, they'd say, who is it? Offender 1130254. And so I was walking, and I heard these girls say, Mrs. Washington, Mrs. Washington. And I was trying to stay on the line like you're supposed to. I'm very compliant. I just commit felonies. But I was walking on the line, and then I heard these women, these girls, and so I finally stopped. I go, Mrs. Washington? I was like, I'm Mrs. Washington. But I'm really Susan. And then I thought, but I was called Miss Washington in school. And I looked back, and these girls come running over, and they're like, Mrs. Washington, we're so surprised to see you here. And they were my former students from middle school. And I was like, oh, my God, can I not hide? Even in prison? And I wasn't at all surprised to see them there. And I was like, I said, y'all have got to behave a lot better in prison than y'all did in middle school, or this is not going to work. But I spent my time there. I ended up moving to a trustee camp where I had to work on a pig farm. And, I didn't know the Bible then, but looking back, I felt like the prodigal son because I had to slop the pigs, I had to clean their slabs, and it was demeaning, it was disgusting, and I never wanted to do it again. And I finally paroled, and I went to Wiley. And my husband had been out, he had been in trouble, but he had been living with his parents and our children. He had gotten us a place to live, and we were finally reunited. And this was a good time. We had this little trailer off of Parker Road. We didn't have any money, but it was the first time in our life, because even before we were drug addicts, we drank too much. We were both sober and clean, and life was good. And this is when God really started working in my life. My daughter Alexis went to a volleyball camp and met a girl named Beth Jensen. And we learned Beth had a brother that was Sammy's age, and they became friends. And the Jensens, who were very involved in New Hope, started taking my kids to New Hope. And I thought, that's good. My kids need church. I don't, but my kids do. And so things were going well. And not long after that, my oldest daughter got caught with drugs at school. And things were a lot of stuff was going on at home. And when Haley got caught with drugs, I was so worried about the cycle of addiction, I called New Hope, and I asked to speak to the pastor, Keith. And he got on the phone, and I go, can me and my kids meet with you? I need you to help me fix them. And he was like, okay. And so one Monday night, me and Haley and Alexis and Sammy went to Keith's office, and I was like, you got to help me fix these kids. And he was like, yeah. I was like, this one just got caught with drugs. These two are fighting all the time. He goes, hold up. We need to take a look at you. And I was like, me, I'm fine. And he goes, no. And he encouraged me to go to a life group. And I really didn't want to do it, but I thought, I'll do it. I'll do it for my family. But hey, I can play the part. I've done it my whole life. I don't have to share anything. But the second night at that life group, someone was sharing. And it just felt like God reached from the heavens and touched my heart, and my heart was broken. And I just started sharing everything I've just shared with you. There were secrets that I've never had spoken before, things that I had never said out loud. And as it was the most cathartic experience of my life, that's the night I met Jesus. That's the night I surrendered to Jesus. And he brought such healing. I remember I had fallen. We were outside in a circle. And I was crying so hard I had fallen to the ground. And, there was just such emotion. And then I kind of came to, because it was almost like I was so emotional. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I've told all these people I'm an ex-con, I'm a felon, I'm a recovered drug addict. I tried to have a meth lab in my home. Oh no. And I looked back and these people are around me. I thought they might have stones. But then I looked again and they didn't. And they were just praying for me. And I started walking in freedom that day. There's a scripture, it is for freedom that he has set us free. So don't turn back to the yoke of slavery. I never have. I began walking in freedom because our secrets are destructive. Our secrets are destructive, and we have to reveal it for him to heal it because he will not go in the darkness. So, that's one of the... Such healing came that day, and such freedom came with me sharing all those secrets. And then they didn't have that power over anymore. I just couldn't believe the power they had over me. And God really started working in my life. I started sharing my story. He placed it in my heart to write a book, and I started doing that. And in 2008, I knew I had changed. I found that my 15-year-old daughter, Alexis, was pregnant. And when I first found out, what's in my DNA was that let's just hide it. Let's pretend it didn't happen. I was leading a life group. I thought, I'm already a felon, an ex-con. I'm already all this. I can't have a pregnant teenager. But in that moment, God was like, that's not who you are anymore. And I went to my life group that night, and I shared my secret. I shared that secret. And they told me people in our church to go talk to who had dealt with teenage pregnancy. And it was amazing because Satan didn't want me to share that. He wanted me to conceal it. He wanted me to have shame about that. He wanted me to have guilt about that. But when I spoke it out, there was such freedom in it. And Alexis chose to raise her baby, and this is Riley, and I can't imagine life without her. So a lot of freedom took place. And in early 2012, I knew a girl was going to write an article about my story. And I was really excited about that. And so I got a website in place, and it was in the Dallas Morning News, and that brought a lot of publicity. Other newspapers did stories, and I was on a radio show, and I just wanted to share. I had an agent interested in my book. In the spring of 2012, my oldest daughter, Haley, had her first baby. And it was such a special time because when Alexis had Riley, I was basically focused on Alexis because she was so young. But when Haley had Kendall, I got to see Kendall be born, and it was just a special time. And life was good. Mother's Day we all spent together. The Memorial Day, which is a tough day for me, we all cooked out and spent time with my family, with my grandchildren. God had healed every relationship. He had restored everything to me that I had lost. Like Joel 2:25, he will restore to you what the locusts have taken or eaten. He had restored my life. And I was so hopeful about my future. Then on June 7th, I was driving to work, and my phone rang. And it was a Wiley police officer. He told me my daughter Alexis had been in a car wreck. And I asked if she was okay. And he said he didn't know that it was a bad wreck. I needed to get to the medical center of Plano. So I made some phone calls, and I was driving. I was worried about the insurance, and I was worried about, like, her job. I was worried about what car she would drive to work now. But I got to the medical center of Plano, and I ran in. I said, I'm here to see Alexis Rose Washington. And they said, you need to go into the emergency. And so I went in, and I began to look in rooms, and someone stopped me, and they said, you need to stop. We need to take you to this room, this consultation room, because the doctor needs to talk to you. And so I called Jill. Jill is like the person I call. I called, and by this point I have no family. I had my children and my husband. My father had passed, and I was just sitting in this room, and a doctor walked in, and he just said, he goes, we did everything we could, but there was too much trauma, and she's gone. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had lost a child. And my heart was broken. And I didn't know how we were going to survive that, because I had really come to know the Lord through the Jensens losing their son. But I remember just feeling overwhelmed, and I remember Sammy and Alexis were Irish twins. There were 17 days in February that they were the same age, and I just couldn't believe it. And I thought, he had texted me, and when he walked in, and so I'll never forget the look on his face, and I was like, how are we going to survive this? And there was this moment, though, where this spiritual exchange took place. I was in this room. It was me and Jill and Keith and the DPS officers, because I didn't understand the wreck. They kept saying she was T-boned on Parker Road. And, when I think of T-bone, I think of running a light or something. And so the DPS officer said it was raining, she was speeding, and her tires were worn. And when he said it about her tires, I collapsed. And I was like, I should have bought her new tires. And that guilt and shame that's so familiar to me, I just started to put, like I normally did. But in that moment, it was like God whispered Psalm 139. And I thought of Psalm 139, and it says our days are numbered. He knows the number of our days before we're born. And I looked at Keith and Jill, and I go, he knew Alexis was going to die today before she was born. This is not my fault. This is not my burden to carry. And in that moment, I felt his spirit, and I felt his strength, and I have been walking in that strength ever since. It was just so powerful that I could do that. And I know Romans 8:28, in all things he will bring good for those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. 600 people came to her funeral. 200 people gave their lives to the Lord that night. That's a good thing. We adopted Riley, and so we are raising her, and that's a good thing. That's a blessing. I see Alexis in her every day. Alexis was my most strong-willed child, so I don't see all of Alexis in her, thank goodness. But God is good, and we have a choice when bad things happen that we can walk in bitterness and self-pity, or we can walk in love and compassion, and I have chosen to walk in love and compassion. So life went on, and we adjusted to life without Alexis. And healing took place. We were brought together as a family. In 2015, I published my book, and I was really excited about that. And I continue to share. At first, like when I first started speaking, I thought, I'm going to publish this book, quit my job, be a speaker, and sell my book. And it didn't work out that way. So I still have to work, but I still share, and I love to share. I share in prisons, I share in schools, I share in churches. And I love that. My family grew. Haley had another little girl named Haven, and my son Sammy had a little boy named Wesley. And let's just keep the right there, please. And things were going, and healing was taking place. Later in 2015, Halloween was just a great day. We always meet at my husband's parents'. We were going trick-or-treating. Riley was Little Red Riding Hood. Wesley was Mickey Mouse. Haven was a lamb. And Kendall was Anna from Frozen. And it was just the best day. I'm so glad I took off work. 3-year-olds are fun. You know, they're so excited about life. They're excited about Halloween. They're excited about trick-or-treating. And we went trick-or-treating, and we all spent time together. And then, on November 5th, my daughter called me, Haley, and she said, Mom, Tony and Kendall have been in a wreck. And they won't tell me how they are. And she goes, you need to come get me. I need to go to the hospital. So I jumped in the car. It was a day I was off, and I started driving. And then Haley called me back, and she goes, Mom, the police are going to come give me a ride to Children's. And so I'm praying. I'm just praying. I'm like, God, please let them be okay, please. So I get to Children's about the same time Haley and the policeman too, and there wasn't a nurse there to meet me, and so the policeman went and found someone, and the nurse said, we need to take you to this room. A doctor needs to talk to you, and so I knew in that moment, and the doctor came in and she just said, we did everything we could, but there was just too much trauma, and Kendall had died. She was 3 years old, and, it was just heartbreaking. It was just heartbreaking. And before that, my hardest moment was losing my child. But watching my child lose her child, it was devastating. And I was mad. And so when we left Children's to go to the medical center of Plano, where Tony was in a coma having surgery, Jill took Haley, and I was by myself, and I just yelled at God. I was like, this isn't fair. I go, I'm trying to serve you, and I've lost everybody about. I know people my age who've only lost grandparents. I'm like, why do I have to lose someone else? I was being very selfish. But he met me in that, like he always does. He met me with love. He met me with tenderness. He reminded me of John 3:16, that he sent his son so we could have eternal life. And he let me know Kendall was with him, and Alexis was with him, and I will see them again. And again, when bad things happen, we have a choice. And we can walk in bitterness and self-pity and say it's not fair, or we can walk in love and compassion and trust him and trust his plan. You know, there are choices, and Alexis chose to speed that day, and God could have saved her, but he didn't. But, we have choices that sometimes have deadly consequences, but he can bring good from them. And, what I do know is that our time here is but a flash compared to our time in eternity. And my time without them is but a flash. It seems so long and drawn out here, but I know I will be with them again one day. And when my sister died, I didn't have that hope because I didn't know the Lord. But I have that hope in him. And so I walk in joy. I have joy every day. I have sadness every day. But I feel his presence, and I know he will bring good. On July 15th, I will celebrate 15 years clean and sober. I've suffered my hardest tragedies since I got clean. So I kind of thought when I got clean, okay, life's going to be good. And that's not the way it works out. But the Bible lets us know that. But he is with us, and that he has overcome the world. And that we're going to have tribulations here, but he has overcome the world. And he is a good God. And that's all I know. And that, if you are walking through something, if you will look to him, I see him all the time. Those are my last pictures with Haley. I have a couple minutes. Can you go to the next one? Can we go back? That was Kendall. That's Kendall's resting place. But I don't know if you can see the picture of me and Haley at the casket, but a lot of people see Jesus in that picture. He always talks to me in pictures. It's in that little circle. It's like he's in his robes. And then there's a picture that was at Alexis's cross in the sky, of a cross in the sky. And he lets me know he's with us. Yeah. And I want to share one thing, because Haley's heartbreak was that Kendall was scared, that Kendall was hurt, that I don't know if Kendall felt it, I don't know that. But, I was like, I just wanted to know God was there. And he let me know that. And what had happened is, after the wreck happened, the company I worked for wanted to buy my daughter a car. And so they called and said, we're going to buy your daughter a car. And I was overwhelmed with gratefulness. And so they're like, we're going to look for this and work on it. So I get a call after the funeral, and the girl I was talking to, she goes, Susan, you're not going to believe this. They had been talking to about 5 different dealerships, and they chose Freeman Toyota. And so they went to the dealership to pick out the car. And she told the general manager, she started to tell her the story. And the general manager kind of went white. She goes, you're not going to believe this. My sales manager is the car that hit him. And he tried to get Kendall out of the car. And me and that man are going to connect one day. But when I was told, I get chills. But God was there. And that's how I know God just swooped her up and took her, and he's there. He was there. He's there with us in our dark times. He's there with us in our good times. Just like the song they sang, he gives and takes away, but he's good, and we should bless his name. And so I thank you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening to me. I would like to pray for you. And I just really appreciate that table. I'm going to knock it over. I swear I'm sober. Okay, let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, I just thank you. I thank you for everyone in here, Lord. And I just pray that you will give them strength, that you will fill them with your spirit, Lord. And if they're going through anything that is hard, anything that they need to speak out, because, God, I know you want us to walk in the freedom that only you can provide, God. And I just pray that you give them the courage, because you do not want us to walk in fear. You want us to walk in your strength. And I just pray that you will bring healing and strength to everyone in this room. In Jesus' life-changing name, amen. Amen.
Wow, thank you so much, Susan. What a powerful story. I've heard it I feel like 20 times, and I still was like, oh gosh, stop crying. You're about to go on stage. Thank you so much. It was beautiful. And just so encouraging, like she was saying, just to remember that no matter what's going on, that he's good and we can trust him and he's with us. So we're just going to sing that last chorus that we were on earlier. And you guys feel free to join in with us. They're going to be taking up the offering during this song. If you're visiting, please don't feel any obligation to give. Just fill out your contact information on the bottom of the program and stick it in. That would be a gift to us. And we hope that this service was a gift to you. If you're a part of our New Hope family, please consider this an opportunity for us to remind ourselves that all that we have is his. It is not ours, but we give back generously because he has given to us so generously. So y'all feel free to stand with us as we sing this last part. We love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you. We can't get enough, and all this is for you, Jesus. So we love you, and we'll never stop. We can't live without you, Jesus. We love you. We can't get enough. Oh, Yeah, God, remind us of who you are as we walk through our weeks, God. Meet us in the dark places and in the light places, God. And would we bring you into every room, God, every conversation, every relationship. Would we bring you there, God? Would we see you there? We love you, God, for your faithfulness and your goodness in all things. Amen. You guys, don't forget, we have the women's brunch this Saturday morning. We would love to see you guys there, eat some food together, hang out. And there's also going to be people up at the sides of the stage. If there's something that tugged at your heart this morning that you would like just to get some perspective on, get some prayer about, or maybe there's things going on in your life, even practical situations that you need tangible help with, we would love to help you. So please don't miss the opportunity to come and pray with people up at the stage. And otherwise, we will see you next Sunday. We love you guys. Don't forget Susan's books are back there on the help desk as you leave if you want to grab one. And we'll see you the rest of you next Sunday.